Hello and welcome back to FACTSLAP. Today we're going to take a walk into the past and talk about some forgotten and lost inventions. Kind of like how I was lost and forgot the door was closed when I got this little invention. Now some of the inventions we're going to talk about today you may have never even heard of, and some may still be around but in a very, very different form. Our first topic is going to be electric cars. Now obviously these are still around today and there's some pretty heavy names in the business. There's Tesla, Rivian, and all the other car companies are getting in too. So, you thought I forgot, huh? Now, did you know the first electric car was actually made all the way back in 1835? That's right, almost 200 years ago, by Siebrandus Strating and his German assistant, Christian Becker. Now, this car was in a very different form than what you see today, not at all like Tesla. This only had 3 wheels, there was a non-rechargeable battery, and it could hold a total of 1.5 kilos. Now, this thing ran for a total of 20 minutes at an unknown speed. That's pretty efficient for 1835. Now, Strating had quite the repertoire for an inventor. He knew over 13 languages, and his list of inventions was pretty heavy. He made a steam-powered wagon, an electric boat, and even created the light bulb far before Edison. He put electricity through a platinum wire that was attached to 2 terminals in a vacuum-dized bottle. Now, he didn't realize the success of this at the time because he was currently working on carbon lamps, and they produced a lot more light. Now, this next invention you may have never heard of before. It was called Starlight. Made back in the 1980s by Maurice Ward, this was a plastic that was made to be almost indestructible. It could withstand up to 10,000 degrees Celsius and take over 75 times the force of the atom bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Now, unfortunately, back in 2011, Maurice Ward passed away without ever giving away the secret to how this Starlight was made. But luckily, in 2013, a chemical startup in California called ThermoShield says that they have the solution and that they were able to recreate this substance. Now, back in the 1930s, jaywalking was such an issue, they came up with a sweet little invention called the Pedestrian Catcher. Now, this thing was pretty much just a blanketed shovel, and the driver would have to pull the lever right before he hit the pedestrian, and it would pop open and scoop him away. Now, they do a video about it, and I quote from the video, "When the scoop is open, a jaywalker simply can't get run over. And sometimes, that's more than he deserves." Now, speaking of inventors with quite a repertoire, Tesla had made something called Teleforce, and he resisted the word death ray because it didn't transmit rays, as a ray would dissipate in the air. Now, this thing would be able to take down planes from miles away, create invisible electricity fences that could defend entire countries, and he was supposed to unveil it to the world, but 1 month before he did that, he was hit by a car and was never able to fully recover. Now, was this invention ever truly made? Evidence leans that it's heavily possible, but damn, we never saw it, and that would have been crazy. Now, this next invention has been made and remade so many times, you may know it as the monowheel or the monocycle, but back in 1932, it was called the Dynasphere, and it was made by Dr. J.A. Purves. Now, this thing had 2.5 horsepower and went a total of 25 to 30 miles an hour, but it weighed over 1,000 pounds and was pretty hard to brake and steer. Now, the Army liked this idea so much they actually came up with a blueprint where they were trying to mount a machine gun to a tank-like version of it. Ooh, now it's getting juicy. Have you ever heard of the Ogle Carburetor? Made by Tom Ogle back in the 1980s, he designed a carburetor that was able to get him over 100 miles per gallon efficiency. Now, the way he was able to accomplish this is he used a high-pressure fuel vaporized system, and this would involve him upgrading the gas tank and also adding heat coils. Now, he was able to demonstrate how much gas mileage he got by driving all the way from Deming to El Paso, Texas, a little over 200 miles on just 2 gallons of gas. Now, it was Tom's dream to design a car and sell it to the public, but in 1981 he was shot by an unknown assailant, making that dream of 100 miles per gallon go down the oh-so-crappy drain. Now, I've got one for the music lovers out there. Have you ever heard of Stradivarius strings? Back in the 17th century, Antonio Stradivarius was well known for making stringed instruments, and even today, his work is unparalleled in quality and sound. Now, Stradivari made a bunch of string instruments, a little over 1,000 violas, violins, and cellos. There's only around 650 left today, and when one was sold for auction back in 2011, it went for $15 million. Now, one lost invention that we still don't have today is Greek fire. Made back in 672 by the Eastern Romans, this was a hell of a problem. Now, if you tried to put it out with water, it got so much worse. What you could put it out with was vinegar, urine, and sand. Now, no one had these around in abundance, so you had a hell of a time trying to put out these fires. They even had little flamethrowers for these things, and it made it so much of an issue that they were able to launch it 20 or 30 feet onto other ships, setting them on fire. Around that same era, the King Mithridates had a big issue with the Roman Empire, and he was deathly afraid of getting poisoned, so what he did was try and come up with the antidote to all poisons. Now, apparently, after a lot of testing on prisoners, he was able to come up with the real deal, Mithridatum, which was a cure to all poisons, and he would regularly eat poison in front of people just to show them how well it worked. Now, no one can be 100% sure that this worked, but apparently, when splitting a dose of poison with his daughter, the poison didn't do it, and it took a blade to finish him off. Rasputin. Now, this next one is a doozy. It's called the Rife Machine, made by Royal Raymond Rife, an American scientist. This machine could apparently detect and destroy any virus known to man. What it would do is find the frequency of the virus and then use an impulse to destroy or disable that virus. Now, Raymond tested this machine on animals and then humans, and supposedly he was able to cure 7 patients from cancer. Now, due to political issues, this machine had to stop being made, and the invention passed away with him. Hey guys, thanks again for stopping by FACTSLAP and taking that informational walk through the past with us. Now, as always, we'd appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe, because it'd really help out the page. But don't forget, we also have the actual FACTSLAP page lined up with all these videos just for you. And as always, keep your fact hand strong.